Hey rockers, welcome back to the channel, man. It's late night on a Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning here in Southern Oregon. And people have been asking about personal stories about some of my bands and stuff, and it's been a while since I brought any of those stories up. So tonight, I'm going to bring up a subject that a lot of people don't talk about, which is, how bands break up. It's more often, hey, how'd the band start? Who was in the original band? But this video is about how my old band broke up after 8 crazy, tumultuous, fun, sometimes shocking, sometimes a nightmare, sometimes blissful band called Bloody Mess and the Skabs. Yep, that band started sometime in 1988, early 88, and maybe mid 88. Started out was a bunch of bikers, man. It was a bunch of dudes that rode motorcycles and played music, and they liked punk rock, and then they met me. So I started jamming with these guys, and we wrote a song called Biker Punks from Hell, and that was the first song that the band was kind of built upon, right? The original bass player of Bloody Mess and the Skabs, the legendary H, Bill Hill, the legendary H. He's not with us any longer. Rest in peace, brother Bill. He played bass. We had X Caldell. Yeah, Bill Caldell. They called him X. He's still with us today. And Mike Gabbert on the drums, who I later nicknamed Gabby Scab. Anyway, so there was 4 of us. We had a band. We were rehearsing a lot. We were doing songs like Biker Punks from Hell. We were doing Ramones covers. We were doing Public Image covers. We were doing all kinds of different punk rock stuff, but didn't quite have a bunch of originals or anything like that happening. But right when I decided, hey man, let's amp this up a little bit, man, and give this band a name, because before we were called Bloody Mess and the Skabs, we were called something that I really can't say on YouTube. So I'm not going to say it. Plus, it's just another can of worms to open up it's not necessary, man. I'm not the same guy that I was back in 1988. Trust me, man. It's been how many years? It's now what, 2025? Yeah, back then, man, I was in my 20s. Now I'm almost 60. I'm 59. Anyway, I digress. It happens to the best of us and the worst of us, right? The band started out jamming a lot, partying, drinking, smoking. And then one day I said, let's amp it up and start doing gigs, man. Let's start rehearsing more and maybe play out sometime. Well, the legendary H, our bass player and one of the founding members, says, you know what? I'm too punk rock to play in front of people or go public. That's selling out. I just want to stay here in the jam room and make organic punk rock music. Screw sharing it with anybody else. And I'm like, I love you, bro, but come on, man, be in the band. This guy dressed head to toe in leather, rode a motorcycle, and he had hair all the way down past his ass, and he was 3/4 Native American, if not more. Badass dude, man, a really good bass player, a really cool guy, great sense of humor, and we were roommates for a while, too, down the road after this. Well, he decided to bail, and then our guitar player, Bill, he's kind of flirting with the idea, I think he was, with sticking with us too, but he kind of went along the same principle as H and said, I'm out. So, me and the drummer, Mike Gabbert, who later became Gabby Scab not longer after we came up with the band name, we started talking and recruiting to people, and I got my girlfriend, Angel, at the time, I got her younger brother interested. He was into metal and hard rock and stuff, never really heard much punk rock, but he was really a good spirit. He was a young teenage kid, the youngest in the band, I believe. And he joined the band, and he was a perfect fit, He could play guitar, he showed up for practice, and that was good. Then we met a young punk rocker in Peoria, Illinois, where we were based, named Ted Malotek, but everyone called him Ugly Ted. And to this day, people say, why did you guys call him Ugly Ted? He was actually a really good-looking dude. And I'm like, I didn't make it up. I don't even know where that came from. I think they also called him Loner Ted for a while. So there you go. Ugly Ted, Loner Ted. Either way, he's a cool dude. We're still friends to this day. And Ted, if you're watching, love you, bro. Ted became a chiropractor. You can see him on the 6th grade field trip album cover with a mohawk. Yeah, right? Ted's still a cool dude today, man. Even cooler than then, right? Some people age like fine wine, and Ted's one of them. So we ended up getting these cats in the band. We started rehearsing more, and we started playing places like Nashville and all over Wisconsin and Missouri, all over the Midwest, basically, Iowa, Illinois. we went through some lineup changes. You know, eventually our guitar player left, Fish. Chris Chandler was his name, by the way. Did I forget his name? Yeah, our guitar player was Chris Chandler, a.k.a. Fish. And he played on the very first Bloody Mess in the Scabs record, along with me and Ted, Ugly Ted, and the newly christened Gabby Scab. So here's the back cover of that album, or 7-inch record, which came out on Mephisto Records in 1989. They only made 600 of these bad boys. Chris Chandler, a.k.a. Fish, guitar player, went on to be in the band Taxi War Dance in Peoria, Illinois. Very popular, very rockin', hard rock / new metal-ish type of band. I don't think they're still going today. I could be wrong. Shout out to Fish if you're out there, man. So the band ended up getting Ty Brown to replace Brother Fish. Ty Brown is on the cover of 6th Grade Field Trip, our first album, which was recorded with me, Ted, and Ty. And Gabby and I had a falling out. He ended up departing the band a couple weeks before we did the album. But I got the late, great Ty Smith to fill in and play drums on 99.9% of the 6th Grade Field Trip album. However, a song that was previously recorded with Gabby on drums also made the last cut of the album as well. Logic is Conformity is the name of that tune. But yeah, then the second album, of course, that the band did had me and Gabby on the front cover because he had rejoined the band at that point. And I like both albums, but my favorite would be Hungover and Stoned. So that's the only 2 albums the Scabs and I ever did. 1990 for 6th Grade Field Trip. 1992, I believe. Or wait, no. I believe it came out in 94, man. Yep, 1994. It was right when we were on the last tour that I'm going to be talking about shortly, man. And that's when the band imploded and exploded and went bye-bye. But we did release quite a few records, man, besides these 2 full lengths and the one I showed you earlier. This one came out on Black and Blue Records in 1992. It's Empty. It's a 7-inch record. Very plain packaging on purpose. Contains our hit song, Empty. Yeah. And then, of course, we ended up getting signed to a label in Germany. It was an all-German label called No Risk, No Fun Records. And they did a 7-inch live record with Bloody Mess in the Scabs. Yeah. Side A, live in Nashville, Tennessee, from 1989, I believe. And side B is live at the Sandburr Lounge in Peoria, Illinois, 1993. And there's the back cover of that bad boy. You can see Ugly Ted there, Gabby there. Oh, sorry about the writing on there. And then, of course, my fat face there. Anyway, so these are hard to find. I think they made 1,000 of these. I think maybe 1,000 of these, 600 of these. And the final record that we did by Bloody Mess in the Scabs, the 7-inch, called A Dog Biscuit for Sick Puppies. Artwork by the late, great Jim Wambacher, a.k.a. Swami. And then there's the back cover, of course, with that's the final incarnation of the band. Gabby on drums, of course, Chris McQueethy. We called him Peeping Tom. Did we call it? No, we called him Doubting Thomas. Yeah, Tom McQueethy. I'm sorry, pronounce his name if he's watching this. No disrespect, bro. Tom McQueethy played guitar in the final lineup of Bloody Mess in the Scabs. Gabby Scab on drums. Ty Brown on the bass and myself on vocals. So Ty went from guitar from the album to bass later. But in between, we had a whole lot of other people. I think when I last counted how many drummers, guitar players, and bass players as a total the band had in the entire 8-year existence was like around 32. Only one singer. But there was a lot of drummers, there was a lot of guitar players, there were a lot of bass players. Each and every one of them get my respect to this day. I'm very grateful for the guys on all these recordings. Chris Prentice, Jim Jackson, Bill Meisner, of course, the guy that wrote Empty with me. Boy, I don't want to forget anybody. Steve Disturbed, my biological brother who played bass. When you hear my song Empty, there's 2 bass players on that song, Ugly Ted and Steve Disturbed, my biological brother. And who else, man? We had so many people. Matt Shane and Jeff Gregory from the band Dollface were members of the band. Heck, Matt was in a couple different incarnations. We had Ty Smith, of course. We had Ogre. Yeah, my good friend Ogre, Brian. So many others. I'm sure that I'm going to forget somebody. Scott Steer. Scott Steer was in the Scabs. Man, this is the part I should have made a list. I'm doing all this from the top of my head. I thought tonight I'm going to have a little smoke session, do a little free form, and the people that want to hear about this stuff will stay tuned and have a little smoke session with me, if you don't mind. Fire up right now. Let's take a little break, grab what you need, twist one up, pack the bowl, the bong, the steamroller, or if you don't partake, do whatever you want, man. Grab something to drink. Hell, grab yourself. Joking. All right, man. Continuing the story, I assume you're packing a bowl, rolling a doobie, or having a drink, or doing something. You know, a soft drink, water, aqua. You know, smoke whatever you want. You know, I'll set my hair on fire for you next. Hang on a minute. Let me get this lighter. I'm joking. Anyway, so it's Bloody Mess and the Skabs. I can't think of, there were other members. Damn it. I'm going to remember later, and I'm really sorry. Hit me up in the comments section if you were in Bloody Mess and the Skabs and did not get a little respect shown your way. Put your name down below, man, and we'll get your recognition in the next video, okay? And also give this channel a thumbs up, or this video, and if you would please subscribe, it helps me gain a few bucks and makes new friends. Those are the two things, man, about YouTube that I love. Help me out, man. Please subscribe. And listen, man, the Skabs was a really crazy band because we weren't existing like most bands to just, hey, let's make music and make people happy and play shows and get booked again and play there again. Nope. We were the kind of band that literally would sit around and do a lot of chemicals and substances and drink. We were very much based on that whole biker punk thing. And we continued doing songs like Ugly Friends, Biker Punks from Hell, Lawless. You know, there was Don't Worship Me. You know, lots of crazy tunes, man. Think of punk rock when you shit. That's a crazy one. That features Steve-O from the band Impetago sings on that song with me on the 6th grade field trip album. I'm just going down Bloody Mess and the Skabs memory lane right now. The band did a lot of touring. We played in Cleveland, Ohio. We borrowed somebody from the Dead Boys gear. I ended up screwing up one of their microphones and had to apologize. One of the guys from the Dead Boys sound system, we played at Pat's in the Flats. We played all over the Midwest, man. All the way up in Manitowoc, up by Canada and Wisconsin, down in St. Louis, you know, Columbia, Missouri, Davenport, Iowa, all over Iowa, everywhere in Illinois you can think of. We played parties, bars, backyard parties, you know, just, we played all kinds of real sleazy environments, and the band was very heavily into doing the things that I'm not telling you that you should do. So if you're an ex-addict, or you're struggling, or you're not a partier, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did. I was an idiot. I lived through it, but you might not. So yeah. And if you're sober and you're not sober and you're digging this, hey, do what you want to do, man. But you're responsible. So we would do all kinds of psychedelics. We would do all kinds of street drugs. We would do just tons of alcohol. And I'm not bragging. I'm telling you the story of Bloody Mess and the Skabs. I cringe at a lot of the behaviors that happened in that band, because a lot of it because of me. So there you go. Do I feel guilt? Not so much guilt as cringe. Yeah. We learn from the crazy stuff, man, and we move on. So the deal is, I don't really regret stuff, because if you go around regretting stuff, how do you ever learn? You have to like let yourself forgive yourself for the things you're ashamed of, but you learn from them. So there was something that was there with some substance. Now I'm getting a little psychological. Don't want to do that. What else do I want to tell you? If you want to watch some really good Bloody Mess and the Skabs footage, go to my other YouTube channel, The Church of Rock, all one word, The Church of Rock. You can type in Bloody Mess and the Skabs live, and you'll find a lot. Some of it's appalling, like really bad stuff that was done under the influence of a lot of booze, a lot of anger issues happening, but not all of it. If you want to find some really entertaining Bloody Mess and the Skabs videos, there's two of them I recommend. One of them is called Bloody Mess and the Skabs at the Club Peoria Gay Disco. Yep. They were the only people in town that were willing to book us at that time, and it was a lot of weirdos, like drag queens and just strange characters there. And none of us were gay in the band, and every time we'd go there, there would be tons of females, because the girls would go there to get away from guys that hit on them all the time. So it was like a gold mine being a single man and playing a gay bar, because it was just wonderful. We had freedom and women, because I was a single man then. Well, we played the Club Peoria Gay Disco 3 times, and 2 of them are on YouTube. If you want to see some really wild performances with yours truly and the Skabs, check those 2 out, and then go down a rabbit hole if you want. But it's not for the squeamish. The band was a shock rock band, although we really didn't say that. There was many newspaper articles for all kinds of crazy stage antics that I'm really not going to get into, man. But the band got into all kinds of pretty controversial behaviors. We used artists that were controversial. I'm going to do separate videos about some of this stuff and these antics, but it's going to be a banger when I do. It's just going to be everything at once, like, holy hell, will they stay subscribed? I hope so, man. Most of you guys probably can't walk past a good car crash, and that band, god darn it, was a crash. We played so many gigs, and it got to be crazy, man. We went through so many musicians. We ended up appearing on TV talk shows like Phil Donahue, The Rolanda Show, a show over in England called Passengers. We did a lot of radio interviews. You know, we played with bands like, big name bands like Head East. And we'd also play with a lot of legendary punk bands like 1096 and The Great Late Beautiful Burt. And I could just go on and on. We played with a lot of really good name bands too, but I'm not really going to go into that right now. I just want you guys to know that the band did a lot of tours. We had a lot of records. Went through a lot of strife, also a lot of really great parties, played some really fun gigs. Some people are probably traumatized by some of those gigs, and for that I do apologize. Anyone that was hurt in the process, that part sucks, yeah. But as far as me, I'm tough as nails, man. I just kind of roll with the changes, go with the flow, and try not to repeat past mistakes, man. But you know what? The band was evolving, but the thing was we couldn't keep a steady lineup, and our sound kept changing. So those recordings were all different, like different people on different recordings and whatnot. Well, we finally went on tour to the East Coast of America, and our album had come out, Hungover and Stoned, on Black and Blue Records on CD and cassette tape. We were liking the album, man. It's right here. I really am proud of this record, to be honest. We decided since me and Gabby were the only people carrying the band for quite a while, that at this point we kept hiring and firing. So we did the album cover with just me and him on the cover. Ironically enough, he's not on the front cover of the first album, so that was good for him. Anyway, this is the back cover, him and I literally getting crocked at a bar. And the sound is way different, and Hungover and Stoned, I'd have to say, is my favorite of the two. It was recorded in several studios, including Picture Perfect Sound with the great Sean Bryan in Bellevue, Illinois, and Don Rosser at Wooden Nickel Studios in Dunlap, Illinois, and probably other places too, man, which I forget. But hey, man, doing my best here. The band decides to go on tour, man. At this point, the band's really doing a lot of partying like usual. You know, we had been banned from so many clubs, kicked out of so many clubs, nearly arrested. We'd appeared on the front page of newspapers all over the Midwest. Even UPI, United Press International, would pick up different stories about this band and some of our crazy controversial antics that would land us on talk shows. And they would print these in newspapers across the world, not the world, the country. So I would get mail inevitably from all kinds of people most of my life because I was a protagonist, antagonist, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it was great. I even had a song on my first album. It's called My P.O. Box because I was so actively involved with writing and sending out stuff and promoting and getting reviews. Hundreds and hundreds of pen pals, literally. So there's a song on 6th grade field trip called My P.O. Box. But the band decides to jump in the van and go ahead and out to a tour that we had set up on the East Coast over in New York City. We had Philadelphia. We had Wilmington, Pennsylvania. And we actually had 2 shows in New York City. So we were doing this mini tour. And there was a couple other dates like Indianapolis on the way up and another one that fell through at the last minute. So it started out disastrous, man. Everyone was kind of weird in the van on the way up. With Gabby Scab on drums, Ty Brown on the bass, and Tom McQuethy on guitar, myself on vocals. We're in the van, everyone's getting along fine, but then it started getting kind of tense about halfway to our destination of New York City. Or no, wait, Philadelphia, man. Philly was our first gig, I believe. God, I hope I'm not forgetting a state. I tell you what, man, I do radio, so I'm used to doing stuff in one take. And even in the recording studio, it's 1 or 2 or 3 takes. Here, it's almost always one take. So inevitably I make a mistake here and there, you know, and I try to correct it by saying something in the description area or correct it in another video. So we're in the van. We're headed towards our destination. We got a bunch of weed. We got a bunch of party favors. We have a bunch of music. We're listening to punk rock all the way there, man. Like, we're starting out listening to Iggy and the Stooges and the Dead Boys, and we just went on for like 17 hours straight, man, taking turns driving till we were exhausted. We get to Philadelphia, and you know, that was a pretty intense experience. I'm really not gonna go into those stories because they'll be separate stories for my channel. But then we went from Philadelphia, and like I say, Philadelphia was completely crazy experience. When I tell you that video, you guys are gonna go, holy hell. It's pretty intense. So it's a whole video on itself. Promise. Bloody Mess the Skabs in Philadelphia is pretty intense. Then we went to New York City, right? And that's where I'm going to go ahead and start this tale. We went to New York City and played at the Scrap Bar, which is a famous bar that everything in the bar is made out of scrap iron. It's a sight to see, man. A lot of legendary punk bands and metal and rock bands have played there. And we played the Scrap Bar, and there was like 2 people. Literally like 2 people showed up or something, maybe 1. Because I remember it was $2 to get in, and at the end of the night, we got paid, man. $2. So yeah, New York City's tough, man. Yeah, like they say, it's a friendly old ghost, but to us it wasn't friendly that night at the Scrap Bar. But we did play. You can watch that video footage on my other channel, Bloody Mess the Skabs, Scrap Bar, New York City, 1994. And that's pretty raw footage because we were really high at these gigs. And I'm talking about probably you know what. And I'm not talking about weed or the stuff that rhymes with Beth or the stuff that rhymes with toke. I'm talking about the bad stuff. But none of us were doing it the dirty way with, you know, I'm not going to get into it. We would use our noses, put it that way. So I'm getting a little personal, man, but that's what you want, right? Truth about this shit, right? Truth. I'm not going to baby it up, man. So we were doing a lot of drugs. We were also doing a lot of psychedelics. We ended up getting like a sheet or half a sheet of some of that stuff that, you know, what's his name? Oh, God, the guy that used to make the blotter for the dead. Owsley. The stuff that Owsley made, we were getting that. We were getting Hard Street drugs, and we were drinking a lot of booze, right? We played the Scrap Bar. There's no one there, but it was fun, and it was real sleazy, and we were doing like Chinese rocks. We were doing all this stuff off the Hungover and Stoned record, and stuff off this last record, A Dog Biscuit for Sick Puppies. We ended up playing there. It was kind of rough again, no one there, nothing to speak of. The band sounded like crap like we always did. Just joking, man. We were just sleazy. And we used to say, we don't really care about the music as much as just being banned from this place and never being back here again. We literally we got off on it. Like, how much trouble can we cause in these venues to just, you know, I used to blow off fire extinguishers in venues and just, we'd set stuff on fire and just like all kinds of crazy stuff, man. We literally would set my hair on fire and we were just insane, or, well, I kind of was. Our drummer would use the marital aids, the big rubber kind, you know, they're called, well, dildos. And he would play drums with those. And it was pretty whacked out band, man. At points in time, one of our guys would wear a full baby onesie with a pacifier. We had a lot of weirdos in the band, man. It was crazy. And Gabby had big blue hair. And, you know, I always dressed like I dressed. So the band's in the Scrap Bar. And then we had another gig booked right after the Scrap Bar, literally. A second gig in New York City at like an hour after the Scrap Bar. So we got the van packed, got out of that uneventful, god-awful Scrap Bar, which we liked. There was no one there. I had a few beers. We made our way over to the Continental Divide, a very famous, great bar in New York City. I don't even know if it's still there or not. But, you know, Joey Ramone had his birthday bash there more than once, I believe. Iggy Pop had been performed there recently before we got there and stuff like that in the weeks prior. And so I was happy to be playing the infamous Continental Divide. And the Skabs got up to do our set, and there was a packed crowd, man. Michael Board was there, famous Maximum Rock and Roll writer, and he's a teacher and a good friend too, actually. We've been in contact since the 80s. Michael, shout out if you see this. Leave a comment, bro. Anyway, so Michael Board's there. The place is packed. There was a few other people I recognized there. Liz Mankowski was there, which was Gigi Allen's last girlfriend. You know, when he passed away, that was his girl. Liz and I had been acquainted before she had met Gigi. I met her in Kenosha, Wisconsin at one of my shows, and she was mutual friends with Mooney and some of the guys in 1096 and whatnot, and became part of the punk rock tribe that I hung out with. Shout out to Liz. Nothing but kind things to say about Liz. What else? There was a packed crowd. I was happy. And we were up there, and at first they didn't know how to take the band, but the audience ended up digging what we were doing because we were sleazy, man. I had like these tiger skin tight pants on, lots of eye makeup on. We were high as kites. The band was sounding decent though, very sleazy. I believe that footage is on YouTube as well. Bloody Mess and the Scabs live in New York City at the Continental Divide. I think it is, or some of it. And that was pretty cool. It wasn't a real eventful show for us. We were really high, really burned out and tired. And when that scrap bar closed down that night after the show, though, man, the bartender said it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. I think 4 a.m. We're all just high as kites. We're drinking. We're tripping, like really tripping. We had done like lots of blotter. And everyone in the band was except for Ty Brown, our bass player. He was drinking only. Well, we're all tripping, ingesting, drinking, and then the bartender stands up on the bar at the Divide and says, "If you're not in Bloody Mess and the Scabs, get the F out." And everyone just cleared out, and we were like, whoa, that's pretty cool service. And then this guy, the bartender, literally starts laying out rails of like white stuff and brown stuff. And I'm like, yes, please, because at that point in my life, I hadn't become an addict, but I was one of those users that used, a couple times a month. And it took me decades before I became addicted. So I'm telling you, stay away from opiates and all that stuff, man. Just don't do it. Smoke weed and that's it. Anyway, period. And the alcohol is just as bad. It really is. It's quickly destructive. So, yep, here I am preaching. I'll shut my mouth. I said my piece, man. I'm very passionate about that. I don't want anyone getting strung out on that stuff. It's a self-created prison and it sucks. So, we get to the Continental, they lock the door, starts laying out rails on the bar. We're like snooting it, we're doing all this stuff. Next thing you know, there was some weird act on stage and they had like glitter lights on them and there was some girl that was doing weird stuff with weird music and confetti was getting thrown all over her by other people. It was the most surreal, weird, wacky crap I've ever seen. While we were tripping and high as kites, it was like something out of Leaving Las Vegas, or not Leaving Las Vegas, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. We were just, it was like, oh my God, are you seeing this, Gabby? Oh my God, look at what the hell? It was crazy. It was crazy. We got so freaking high in that place, and then we had to leave there after a while, but we were getting free drinks, free rails, like just, oh my God, we were allowed to smoke. It was a party. It was a really fun party at that time in my life. I felt like I was in heaven, but I paid for that later. I did. But we had a hotel right around the corner, not far, at the I think it's St. Mark's Hotel, or St. David, St. Mark's, yeah. And dude, it was 1994. It cost $25 for a room. That's how horribly decrepit and just disgusting this place was. New York City? Do you know how expensive it is for a freaking hotel room there? $25 is what we paid for 4 guys to stay in a room. And the first thing we saw when we walked in was this crazy dude that worked there, and he said, "Hey man, we just want you to know there's like somebody gets taken out once a week in this place." And we looked it up and asked some people, and turns out, yeah, it was people getting taken out central. We were freaking, and the part of the band was nervous. Guitar player and bass player were a little nervous. The other guys, me and Gab, we were like, whatever. So we went to the room, opened the door. First thing I see is a big rat about this big crawl under the bed. And I jumped on it and laid down with my big biker boots and my leather jacket and my skin-tight tiger skin pants or whatever. And I go, home sweet home. That's literally how we were then. Very, very decadent. It took me a long time to get out of that band. It's like 8 years of my life in this crazy band where we made a lot of enemies, man. We never really tried to make enemies with people. It was more like establishments, corporations, corporate radio stations. We were able to manipulate the station in our town in Peoria, Illinois, because whenever something fashionable would happen, like the O.J. Simpson chase, we wrote a song the next day after that was on the news, watching O.J. go down the highway in that white van, and I wrote a song called O.J. Simpson. We recorded ourselves, sent it out to the local morning show radio shows, and it was being played daily for like every 20 minutes. They'd play it and laugh, eventually landing us positions at the station to get interviewed and then getting gigs, of course, with the radio station. Those are some good stories too coming up when we opened up for Head East, and there was like 2,000 people down below this balcony and in this old theater, and I walked up to the top of the balcony and, well, relieved myself. That's all I'm going to say. But there was a couple thousand people not happy. That's another story that's going to trip people out. But I got to tell you, the truth is coming, man. This is a channel that's Not going to worry about telling the truth. We're just going to let everything roll how it rolls, man. I'm going to wrap this up soon, man. But check it out, man. So where was I? Please remind me. We're sitting there getting high. We go back to the hotel. The rats. It was a very crazy place. There was blood stains on the carpets. It was just the most disgusting place. Then we go walking the streets, man. We're all high as a kite. We're walking around, and everybody in the band started getting kind of paranoid because it was rough around there, man. Crazy gangs and weird people everywhere, mentally ill. Nothing against mentally ill people, but it was people that are unhinged, that are not safe. And we're walking around, and finally we're tripping so heavily, except for our bass player, Ty. And he's like, man, I'm kind of freaking out. And I go, Ty, look at us. We're 4 big, crazy-looking rock dudes wearing leather jackets. We're kind of scaring people, probably. And then he thought, you're right, probably. I go, no, dude. Gabby was a real big dude. I wasn't exactly afraid of anything or small. And Tom had King Kong balls. And Ty, he would have stuck up for everybody. So we walked around these alleys, walking down the sleaziest, most dangerous alleys we could find, literally. And we came across dudes that had like white eyeballs with no, you couldn't see anything but white. And we were all tripping and seeing the same thing. It was nuts. I don't even know how it happened. But we ran across this lady. We were walking out in front of the Chelsea Hotel, and I took the band in. I said, do you know what this is? And they're like, no. I go, you don't know what the Chelsea Hotel in New York City, all the history? No. So I took him in, and I proceeded to give my band this totally LSD trip guided history lesson about the Chelsea Hotel. And I told him about all the history from the way back until all the way up into the 60s, 70s, and the Warhol people and just the rock stars and the people that lived there and the things that happened, Sid Vicious, Nancy, all these things, right? And we were tripping. It was a ball, man. And looking at the art in there and thinking about the vibes I was feeling from all the energy that happened there, right? Well, we walked out of there, and there was a German lady walking by us, and she was talking in fluent German and looked like she was batshit crazy. And we were just kind of like high as kites going, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Do you need help? Because she looked like she was in pain or acting weird. And she proceeded to tell us that she was married to some count, some really rich guy in Germany, and she ended up cheating on him, and he had sent her to the USA years ago with a one-way ticket, and she had become a drug addict and all these things, on substances and alcohol, and you could tell that she had a lot of hard times, man. So we literally were freaking out on her because she was speaking German, but we literally, with good intentions, said, hey, do you want to come back to our hotel? Do you want to use our shower and get cleaned up? The poor lady, we were just tripping and took pity on her. Well, she said, yeah. So we all jump in a cab, all of us crazies on all these things, and this lady speaking German, we're all drunk and slurring. Some of us are high on other things, and some of us are tripping. It was pretty intense. We get back to the hotel. I show her, look, sweetheart, here's a towel. Here's the bathroom. Just lock the door. Take your time. So she goes in there, and next thing you know, she's opening the door, and we're all looking at her, and she's full on nude. So we're all turning away because we're tripping. And she wasn't the most appealing person. Not to say she wasn't bad looking, but she was just rough. And so we turned away. She goes back and gets in the bathtub. At one point, she ends up banging on the walls. She's banging on the walls. And we're uh-oh. All of us freaked out and got paranoid. We're like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And then one of us said, how are we going to get her out of here? And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought about this. So it was this crazy sitcom situation, but it wasn't funny then, but it is now. Bunch of crazy, drunk, high punk rockers trying to do something good. What in the hell were we thinking, man? Do you know how many people walk around New York City talking to themselves in different languages? We just thought, but let me get to this part of the story. At one point, our drummer walks in there because she's banging on the walls, and he walks in there, calm down, you got to knock it off, because she's kind of losing her crap at this point, and we're hearing her talk to herself, full-on conversations back and forth, and then we're all getting nervous, what if we can't get her out? What if she's so crazy that she comes after us? No one wants to hurt anybody, or you have to drag anybody out or call the, security, because, we already have enough rats in the room. We don't need people in the bathtub that were beating on the walls. So Gabby goes in there, tries to calm her down. Hey, honey, here's some soap, wash yourself. And then he goes, oh my God. And he walks out of the room, and he looks at me all stoic, and he goes, you ain't going to believe this, man. What a trip. What a trip, dude. And I go, what are you talking about, man? It was real tense because everyone was freaking out in the room at this point. And we're like, how do we get her out? How do we get her out? And everyone's like, what? And he goes, man, go in there and take a look. You're not going to want to see it though. And everyone's like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. And I'm finally like, he wouldn't tell me what it was. So I'm like, I'm going to go in there. And I opened the door. And, you know, I've seen naked women before, so it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't like perving out or anything, man. But I walk in the door, and she's sitting in the tub, blissful looking, you know, washing herself and blah, 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 land talking. And she's got a scar that's going all the way down like her entire chest, man. Like somebody had taken like a butcher knife or something, man. It was just really, really scary. I had never seen a scar that bad, the scar tissue left from some accident like that in my life. And, you know, I asked her about it because I was like, well, this is freaky. But, yeah, it brought me down and we started having a bad trip. And finally, she told me what happened. And I just gave her a lot of compassion. And we ended up paying her to, you know, here's the money for a cab. Please leave. And she finally did. But that was intense as hell. And I just forgot about that till today. Hadn't thought about that since 94. Anyway, so the band's just doing pretty sleazy. We did our gigs we did a gig in Philadelphia. We did 2 gigs in New York City. Had a great time. The guys couldn't get me out of bed the next day because, well, I was doing a little bit more of the brown stuff, not the white. And I was feeling sick because I'd done too much. And I was vomiting. I was laying in bed. I couldn't get up. I'm like, I want to go walk around New York City so bad. I'm sick. And the guys are like, well, we're going to go for a while, blood, and we'll let you know what happens or whatever. And they ended up going out in the street, and I know they had a run-in with Gigi Allen's brother, Merle Allen. Yep. I'm going to keep the details of what happened during that encounter private out of respect for Merle, because all I have is my band member's word and what happened, and I'm going to leave it there. So, yeah, literally out of respect for Merle. I don't want to open up cans of worms or weird stuff that I can't verify or go back and ask these guys. So I'll just say they definitely ran into Merle Allen. They ended up walking around the city, having some more crazy adventures. They came back. They got me. They finally, you know, got me feeling better, kind of. And then we drove down to Wilmington, Delaware, which is where the ill-fated story is going to end shortly. God, I can't believe this video is this long. I hope it's compelling enough to have kept you guys here. Leave a comment below. Tell me, am I a boring wanker or was this cool? Anyway, we get to Wilmington, Delaware, right? Isn't that like the home of like George Thorogood, I think? So we get to that town and we're like, oh, wow. It's like an old, quaint little antique looking place, like historical town, right? We get there, we park. Vibes are weird. There's no punk rockers. It was a bunch of weird kind of rednecky people that didn't seem rock and roll at all. And we were kind of tripping, and we started carrying gear in. And then I decided, you know, I better make a phone call home on the pay telephone outside to my wife. And so I did. And then there's another part of the story that I can't say out of privacy reasons and respect for my wife, and because she might not dig me talking about private stuff. But some stuff had gone down with me on this tour that I will talk about later that happened in Philadelphia, and it wasn't cool, man. And I think you could probably figure out some of what it might relate to, you know, what would make a woman really mad, you know, and it was really bad. So I'll talk about that later. But I'm just kind of fessing up, man. I'm trying to be as real as I can. But basically, I had only been with my wife, which we weren't married then, right? But our daughter was like a year old, maybe a year and a half tops. And I wasn't quite done being a wild man yet, man. I was basically a very committed guy. I was basically tame enough to where I only partied on the weekends. I was still in the Skabs, though, and that band was just Decadent City. It just was. It was from beginning to end. And, yeah, there were so many stories I'm leaving out today. This band, Bloody and the MESS the Skabs, recorded with Gigi Allen. You can find those recordings online. God, there's so much stuff the band really did accomplish. I'll have to make other videos about the Skabs because we did a lot of gigs, man, for a lot of years, and a lot of people hit me up about the band. So, yeah, I know Bird Eater Entertainment, record label out of Cali, is putting out some kind of split coming up, and they're using some live in Nashville tracks that have never been released. 2 of the ones were released on that German record that I showed you earlier. 2 of them. But he's going to release 2 or 3 more perhaps, from that show soon on a split on Bird Eater Entertainment. On cassette tape only. Yep. And back to the story. So we get to Wilmington, walking in, carrying gear. I go out to call my girl. I call her. She gives me this bad news. And it was basically one of these situations like, when you get home, I'm not going to be here, and neither is your daughter, because I know that's the one thing you love the most, and that's why I'm taking her, because you're a bad boy. You've screwed up in like 5 different ways, and I'm pissed. And I freaked out, man. It was like a life-changing moment for me, because my heart was in the right place, but my actions weren't. And I hadn't quite tamed myself down. It was 7 days a week of partying. Women, wine, and song for me, please. That's how I lived, man. Lots of girls, lots of substances, lots of booze. And then I met Tracy. It took her a while to get it out of me. I'm going to be honest. Not going into details. She would appreciate that. But I did finally calm the hell down. So what happened was, we go on stage, and right when we're setting up, we feel a lot of tension in the air. No one's being friendly, not even the contact we had. It was real weird, man. And we weren't the kind of band that put up with any kind of crap from anybody, like a bartender or bar owner or people in the audience. We were pricks. Pretty evil sometimes too, I have to admit it. So those are other stories for later. I'm going to get this thing shut down. But we get on stage, and I start to walk up there, and I'm completely miserable. All I'm thinking about is, oh my God, I think I just lost my daughter and my girl. And when I go home, I'm going to be alone with the fact that I screwed up on this tour in so many ways, and I'm on all these drugs, and my guitar player has never done any hard things like that. I told him, you don't do what I do, bro. But he insisted, and he got into it, man. And many years later, because we lost touch after the tour, many years later, I ran into him at a concert, Nazareth concert, when I was opening for Nazareth in 1999 with my band The Veins in Peoria. And he came up to me and punched me like kind of hard in the shoulder or something. And I was like, what's up, man? You know, what's up with you? What's the attitude? And he goes, yeah, I just want to tell you that I'm still doing that stuff and this and that. And I was like, what? Because when we left New York City, I literally told my band, everybody empty your pockets out. We're getting off these drugs. Throwing them away, flushing them, it's done. We bought too much. We spent all of our money on it. We're done, man. And no one's taking it home and becoming an addict. Period. And I was very, very adamant, and everybody pulled their pockets out. I threw away what I had left, literally. I was done getting sick, man. I didn't want to be strung out. It was only a couple of days of doing this stuff, so we weren't quite addicted yet. We were to the pleasure, but not physiologically needing more the next day. But I had done so much that I was doing too much and puking, so essentially overdosing, but not passing out. Horrible stuff, man. This is bloody mess in the scabs. But yeah, man, we used to get into some crazy stuff, man. We really did. We were not saints by any means. It was a band that lived what we kind of wrote about. Biker punks from hell. And you could say we smell. We used to call ourselves punk rock weirdo trash. I kind of still do, minus the chemicals and the booze. And, you know, I am sober today. I don't do the hard drugs. I don't do the booze. But I had a couple beers recently. But, I smoke the ganja. We walk up to play. I'm miserable, thinking I'm losing everything I love because I'm a loser, a decadent, sleazy loser. And I'm a drunk and I'm a druggie. And then I'm walking up to the stage, man, and some dude goes, hey, Mick Jagger. And I was just livid because I was not in the mood to get any hecklers because we did the heckling at our shows. So anyway, I was great with hecklers though, man. Really good at comebacks quickly. So I got on the mic and I immediately insulted that guy. Enough to where the whole place immediately hated us. We did one song. More people were like, yeah, you guys suck, and yelling at us, and we were off our game. The guitars were out of tune. The band felt like I felt. We were defeated, burned out, tired, and now their lead singer is completely miserable, and that's kind of the last straw for everyone's nerves. We're tired and burned out. When we were in New York City, we literally were walking around, man, trying to cop. After we got paid at the Continental, we got like, I don't know, $400, and we went and used that money to score. And I ended up having to go to these weird gang dudes on the street. These, like, I think it was Mexican or some other culture, with all respect, And I went and had to meet with these people, and then eventually this young dude comes in. I'm like, how is this kid, man? He's like 12 or something. He hooks me up, and then I have to go up these flight of stairs. It was like one of those old school tenement buildings in New York City, like 30 flights up, man. And I end up in this dude's apartment that I knew somehow through punk rock, and he was at the show earlier. And he's there, and these people, these other two chicks were there. I think they might have been women of the night, but they were all getting real sleazy in that apartment, man. And I'm not talking about sex stuff. I'm talking about getting just going for it, the works, tying themselves off on their arms and doing what Sid and Nancy would do. I was like, you know what, this ain't my scene quite. Mine's a little bit more dignified, and whatever. So I got out of that tenement building. We ended up in Wilmington, Delaware. We have no drugs with us, supposedly, until I see my guitar player in 99. This was 94, right? 5 years later, he's telling me, yeah, man, I did bring some back in my shoe, and I never stopped. And I wanted to cry, man. I couldn't believe it. So my friend became an addict, and I didn't want that. That was the thing I didn't want. But of course, my actions were all stupid in the first place, so it is what it is. I think he's sober today. The word I got on the street is that he beat it. So good for you, bro. Anyway, it's a rough life sometimes being a musician, because it's all around, man. It's got the energy of, according to my Hindu friends, it's got a lot of energies that bring a lot of spirits, kind of like alcohol can do, but not all of it. Some of it brings pure good stuff, but because they changed the frequency of music and sounds back in the day and changed the beats on purpose to make it more discordant instead of harmonious, things got weird. That's another rabbit hole though, man. So we're in Wilmington. Some dude starts heckling me, and I went off, threw my microphone at the dude out in the audience, and I just said, I quit. I was so livid. But I was done. It was 8 years of burnout, 8 years of abuse, substance abuse, falling out with band members having affairs with other members' girlfriends, and just horrible stuff. And that happened to me. Just all kinds of crap, dude. It took a big toll on my emotional and mental health, and I had to get out, even though I was the instigator in most of that stuff. People change, man. People change, and I did. Do I still retain a lot of my rock and roll self from back then? I do. But not as much as you would think. None of the hard-edge stuff, man. I've softened up a lot in my older years. But hey, man, I still like a good party once in a while, as long as I'm not getting slammed on booze or drugs. There's always music and ganja. Listen, man, what happened was we got out in the van. We started unloading the van. The band didn't say a word. We were defeated. I said, I want to go home. I quit the band. I'm no longer your singer. And you can do what you guys want. Start another band without me. I don't care what any of you guys do. I'm done. And they were like, all right, man, got it. And they all got it. And we rode back about 17 hours straight to my house. I was completely depressed. Probably some of the saddest that I'd been in years. And I might even have cried in the van on the way home. It was pretty traumatic for me because I love my daughter. And I have two daughters, by the way. One of them is 32 years old and one's 41. Isn't that crazy? And they're both super ultra cool. Yep, they both like rock and roll and both into like high frequency ways of thinking and living and being. Very kind people, but also they know how to have a good time too. They're cool. So yeah, shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Audrey. I love you girls. So I'll go down that road later too. It's fun doing live videos like this because you're not going to edit it. Got to keep it real, folks. Got to keep it real. God, I look like hell. That's why I wear my shades a lot. People say, why do you wear those? Not covering up my eyes from anything. It's just that I just look like crap. I got up super early today, worked on this farm, and I'm just like, oh my God. So we drove back 17 hours to Illinois from Wilmington, Delaware. Nobody spoke. I just sat there probably crying, sulking, bumming out, bitching, and telling them I'm absolutely done. I quit. I'll never do it again. I promise you, this band's over. And they were all bummed out, man. No one wanted it to end like that, but it imploded. But it was time. It was time for me to step up to the plate and be a good father, man. And I didn't want to lose Audrey, and that was that. So that's the truth. And I raised her well, and we raised her well. And to this day, my daughter is not only my daughter, and we have a great relationship, but she's one of my best friends, man, and one of the coolest rockers I know, honestly. Yeah, we got a lot of shows together and stuff like that. Hey, man, long live the music of Bloody Mess and the Skabs. I don't want to take away from any of that by having any of my personal attitudes or bringing these disgusting stories of filth and decadence your way. But, it's rather endearing that we survived it. A lot of us survived it. I don't think anybody in the band has passed away. I could be wrong. Well, the legendary H, one of the founding members, H. But I don't think anybody else in the band has. And if, oh yeah, I'm wrong. I'm thinking, when we recorded the Empty song, we did a song called Voodoo Doll. And that features Brian Shelby on drums, the only song he ever played with us, the Skabs. He passed away. And then we had Charlie Radley on guitar. That's two other guys I forgot. Yeah. Oh, and Mike Hensley played rhythm guitar in the band for a while too, man. Oh, and Thumper. I forget his name, man. His real name, we called him Thumper, man. Maybe his name was Brian. I don't recall. But he played drums on several tracks on the 6th Grade Field Trip album, aside from Ty Smith. Oh, my God. I got it wrong earlier. Ty Smith plays on most of the 6th Grade Field Trip album, except for 3 tunes that Thumper is on, and then Gabby's on 1. So I'll be damned. We have 3 drummers on that 6th Grade Field Trip album. That's crazy, Daddy-O. 6th Grade Field Trip, 1990, my friends. Hungover and Stone, 1992. And I'm still alive in 2025. And you might say, Bloody, what happened when you got home? Well, when I got home, my girl was watching a videotape that somebody had sent to her overnight, express mail, of me partying the night before. And I'll leave the rest to your imagination. But there was all kinds of stuff on that video, including the guys that were mad at me for, apparently doing some stuff that violated a code of ethics among men, and I passed out. And on that video, they kept the camera rolling after I'd passed out. I was very blacked out on alcohol. Very. I don't remember any of this. Those guys proceeded to pour hot barbecue sauce, like hot sauce for like Oriental food kind of thing, Asian food, like hot sauces all over my pubic hair and down there. Yeah, dude, all over my junk. And I woke up in the van later with my band, and they had to come and like rescue me because I kept going back in the house. I didn't know where I was at. They were tripping because I was blacked out. No one could relate to me. I did all this heinous stuff while drunk. Nothing I can't live with, dude. I had to pay the price. But when I got in that van, all of a sudden I was like, oh. And I was like, what is going on with my balls? Do I have some kind of, venereal disease? What did I do? I don't remember, having any intimate relations with anyone like that, which I didn't. But man, those guys got me good, man. Then they sent a videotape to my wife to get even with me. Well, the good thing is it took a little time. It took a lot of trust, a lot of patience, and a lot of me keeping my word from then on and being a good dude. So I quit Bloody Mess and the Skabs, and that was it. Well, about 6 months to 8 months later, I couldn't quit, man. I'm like, I got to do music. So I talked with my wife, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? And by the way, we weren't even married at this point. But hey, I was with my significant other. And I said to her, what do you think about if I record a country record? So I did. And it was called Bloody and the Country Trash Punks. And that 7-inch record came out on Baloney Shrapnel Records in 1995. And on one of those songs, it was co-written by my chick, Tracy. And it was called Crying Over You. And she and I both wrote the lyrics to it. And it was a heartfelt autobiographical song about how I broke her heart. And how she wasn't going to put up with it if I kept doing it. And it was a cool country tune. And then after that record came out, I formed a regular working band called the Renegades. We were an outlaw country band that played 2-3 gigs a week for about a good 1.5 to 2 years. Had a lot of wonderful times with that band. And you can find some Renegades videos on my other channel, The Church of Rock, if you type in the Renegades with Bloody Mess or Derek Moody, my radio name. Other than that, it's been 52 minutes. Oh my gosh, it's my longest video yet, I believe. It's almost 53. But I could have went on forever, and I'm probably going to think of more stories, which I'll make separate stories about Bloody Mess and the Skabs. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thanks for being here, my amigos. Rock and roll, punk rock forever, and punk rock weirdo trash forever. Yeah. Hungover and stoned. I had a late night last night. Well, hungover and stoned, I feel bad. Yes, I do. Down. Gonna go on a trip this spring. All the kids will laugh and sing. We'll spend money and act like brats. We'll get fat and see the sights. Down. Field trip. 6th grade. Field trip. Yeah.